Hi everyone, it's Braelan and welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be talking about administration and ways that special ed teachers can collaborate and work with administration. This is kind of a big video, a big topic, and there are going to be a lot of different components of it. We're going to talk about the types of people that you have to collaborate with. We're also going to discuss some tips and strategies to kind of set yourself up like on a good note before you even begin working with administration. And also we're going to kind of troubleshoot and answer some questions / case studies surrounding special ed teachers and administration. I want to always preface my videos by saying that I'm not necessarily talking about my personal experiences, although I will weave those in as we go. My current position is so amazing and I love the administration that I get to work with. So if anything, I have like the best experience this year, and so I know that it is possible to have a great school and to work with administration really closely. And so I'm going to use that as like the ideal situation because I am so blessed this year with the people that I've been given. All right, we're gonna dive in. This video is in conjunction with a blog post that I wrote for my friend Heather at Full Sped Ahead. She's amazing. I'm gonna link her Teachers Pay Teachers store. I'm gonna link her Instagram. I love following her. She gives great advice and tips. She also teaches grades that are a little bit higher than mine, and I love learning from her because she has so many things for students that are a little bit older, and I really aspire to be a lot like her. I'm also gonna link the blog post and her blog down below because go ahead and read it. It's a lot of the same information as this video, but she has so many other blog posts on her blog about different elements of special ed essentially, and I'm really excited for you guys to explore that and see all of those things. I first want to define a couple things for people that might be newer to this, and if you're like, been a special ed teacher for a gabillion years, just skip ahead and go on to the next section. So a lot of times in schools, there are different administrative positions. There's the principal, the assistant principal. A lot of times in special ed, there's a special ed director, or maybe there's like specific content, like instructional leaders of some kind. And all of those people have a lot to say about the teaching and the comings and goings of your classroom, of the school in general, of the budget and everything. I asked on Instagram for people to share about their schools and their structures because I didn't just want to base it off of my experiences, but also other people's experiences as well. A lot of people said things like they have a principal, an assistant principal, and a sped director. A lot of people said that their administration rarely comes into their classroom or doesn't have much to do with their classroom at all. They've also said, it was kind of a mixed bag. Some people have really great relationships with those people. Some people don't have great relationships with those people. It kind of just depends. I also want to emphasize that in special ed, it's really about the content you're teaching and the IEPs. And so a lot of times it is kind of challenging when, for example, you might have principals or assistant principals that are not special ed specific people, for them to kind of understand what you're doing and for you to be able to express yourself and advocate for the things that you need. So I want to touch on another section, which is why are these people so important? Obviously, you all know that without the administration people, the school wouldn't run effectively. I love principals because I think they're so knowledgeable, they know so much, and they have a really important role that they have to fill. I also think I love sped directors. It's like my dream in life maybe to one day be a sped director, because I think that process of understanding how special ed works and how the state and the government level of it works and how to work with teachers individually. I love that kind of stuff. So that is like a dream for me one day, but we're not there yet. I think all of these people are so vital to the team and to teamwork. We're going to switch gears a little bit. You're probably like, why are you saying all these things? I already know this stuff. What is up? The reason I kind of lay the groundwork is because for a lot of teachers, working with administration can be extremely challenging. And I want to go through a couple scenarios. I don't want to say if they're my scenarios or if they're other people's scenarios, but if you relate to any of them, just know that you're not alone and that there are so many teachers who relate to these type of scenarios. And then we're going to break them down a little bit. So the first scenario is that a teacher, a special ed teacher, you might be one of the only ones in the building, or maybe there's a team of you and you have your service providers, you have, your other staff members, but the principal, maybe the vice principal or assistant principal, whatever they're called, and the sped director rarely interact with you. They kind of leave you to yourself. You're able to do whatever you want. You don't have a super deep relationship with them. Sometimes they come into the room just to observe or to do like an observation, formal or informal, and it can feel really stressful because they're not a normal part of your classroom. And so it's kind of like, anxiety inducing. Also, when you do go to meetings or when you are in meetings, it doesn't really apply to you. And so overall, you just kind of get to live your life by yourself. That's a really common scenario. Scenario 2 is the opposite, where the principal, whether it's the principal or maybe the special ed director or the case manager or whoever that might be, is really, really involved in your classroom. They know exactly what you're doing. They know like the content you're teaching. They know the students really well. They know the staff. They're asking a lot of questions. They're really knowledgeable. You can go to them for advice. You can ask for help. And it's a pretty like cohesive, amazing team. That's also a common scenario. Some people have one, some people have the other. The third scenario is more of a negative scenario, which is that, you have the administration, whoever they might be, whether it's like a facilitator, case manager, whoever, and they are really involved in your life, but it's hard to like get anything right, essentially. And it's really challenging to communicate your wants and needs. And a lot of times it just feels like maybe the administration is not caring about what you're asking for or caring about what you need. And then you're kind of stuck, like struggling, and you're trying to build this relationship and rapport, but at the same time, it's like nothing's getting done and you don't feel supported or heard. That is also a really common scenario number 3. So all 3 of these scenarios are really common, and they have their pros and they have their cons. So now I want to kind of talk about the tips for each one. Again, these are not just my tips. I asked a lot of people on Instagram. I even asked my own administration like what they would recommend, just because I want to make sure that I'm giving a well-rounded view, not just from my experience or from my personal opinion. I think the number 1 scenario, the one that talked about the admin that's not really like very present in your life, I think that for the most part, a lot of special ed teachers don't mind that because you can kind of do what you want. But there are times that you do need support, or like, how do I do this intervention with this person? I think the number 1 tip is to find one of the admin that you feel really supported by or you feel close to. Even asking like, hey, can we set up a meeting time just to meet and discuss, just so I can ask a couple questions. I think being the kind of person that asks really thorough questions, even if they're in an email, is something that's really important. Asking like, how should I go about talking with this parent? Or what is your protocol when you're talking to challenging parents, so that I can mimic that? Or asking for feedback, asking if administration could come into your room. I think that's like such a taboo thing. But if you want to be involved with whoever that person might be, a principal, a sped director, inviting them into your room. Hey, we're having this event on Friday. Do you want to come in and see it? I don't think I've ever met an administrative person that doesn't want to see what's inside of a classroom. They will always make time to see it. And whether they're a negative person or a positive person, inviting them in on your own terms and in your own time frame can allow you to control the scenario a little bit better. And I would rather start off a job like on the right foot, inviting them in, having great conversations with them, versus like not knowing them at all and then struggling when they finally show up and you just aren't aware of them. I think also another point of contention that can happen is for things like budget or, asking for things or like ordering supplies. I think asking up front about the supplies that you need and being really intentional about what you're ordering or what you're asking for, or curriculum things. They could say no, but just like asking and having a good rationale for that can be really, really helpful. Wow. Okay. I want to pause in the middle of all of this and give my number 1 tip for all 3 of them. I'm naturally, this tip is coming from my own brain. I am naturally a little bit more of like a silent person at the beginning. I'd rather just observe the scenario. Here's pro tip that is a little iffy. I think it's worth it to observe in like whole staff meetings. When you're first getting to a school and you're first meeting people, I really feel like it's worth it to observe the administration and take a look at like, what is their vibe? What is their style? Are they more talkative? Are they more reserved? Who are the people that they gravitate towards? Who are their friends within the staff that they prefer? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? Do they come into school with Starbucks every day? Or do they make their coffee at home? Are they a morning person where they're talkative in the morning and say hi to people, or are they grumpy in the morning or grumpy all day? Whatever it might be, I think it's worth it to take a lot of time and observe those people. Observe them in the meetings, observe them in the hallways, and so you can start taking notes and kind of make a game plan for how you're going to be in good standing with that person. Not like fake and butter them up. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I think just knowing like, this is the kind of person that I could go to, or this person seems really trustworthy, or this person seems really kind, is worth it. I think that is like pro tip number 1. I just want to get that boom, boom right out the bat. All right. So for scenario 2, which I think is a really great scenario, the one that I feel like I have, which is a really supportive administration that is very involved. My, assistant principal and instructional leaders are in there multiple times a week just to hang, just to see, just to socialize with the kids. They know the kids' names, they know the caseload, they know the parents' names. We've communicated with parents together. It just feels like a really cohesive team. I think if that's the case, hold on to that. Don't let that go. I think one of my biggest tips in terms of like collaborating with admin and making sure that I'm still, communicating with them effectively and having a great relationship with them is every time I go to a meeting, I have an agenda so that we're not just like rambling off to the side. I have an agenda. When they email us for deadlines, I make sure I meet those deadlines within a couple days or even go a couple days early, just because I want them to know that I'm seeing these emails, I'm responding back, yes, thank you so much, and I'm staying on track of my deadlines. I feel like that proves a lot to people. I also think when you're in meetings, like, listening to those meetings, even if you have the best team, like not talking all the time or over talking, but just kind of listening to what those people have to say, and then maybe responding with one thing so that they know that you're participating and that you're engaged. I didn't say these were going to be like fancy tips. These are tips that help you survive and help you thrive. So I want to, shift gears to the third scenario, which I think can be one of the more challenging ones. I want to again validate people's feelings that a lot of teachers expressed to me on Instagram that they do feel like sometimes they don't have the most supportive environments. That is so common. I have experienced that in previous positions, and that's why I chose the job that I have now, because it was a complete opposite of that. But I think that I've experienced that too, and I'll give you a little snapshot into it. There was a head person of like the district who was also not very nice. And then it trickled down to the admin were not very nice, like the principals. The nice people were the special ed like directors. They were the ones that were most knowledgeable and supportive of me, but they had high expectations being put on them from the people above. And so it was just a really stressful environment. And then the teacher to the left and the teacher to the right were also special ed teachers, and to the front, the back, whatever. All the teachers that surrounded me were awesome, but they weren't supportive because they were stressful enough, and the culture of the entire school was a little intimidating and scary and stressful. I have experienced that, and it definitely took a toll on me. And so again, validating that if people are at that place, that is really challenging. I think the number one thing is to ask for help in those scenarios. Looking around, again, being observant during meetings, finding one person that you feel like could really support you, or even just answer some of your questions in the least scary way possible. Ask for help, reach out. I think, again, being really clear on your deadlines, getting your job done almost ahead of time, dotting your I's, crossing your T's, having checklists so that they might have a lot of things to say about you, but they can't say that you didn't do your job effectively. I think some of the same tips still apply. If there are opportunities to be on like committees and you have the time to do that, just to get in a better standing with the other administration or to get to know them a little better. I think that is also really important. Taking the time to ask them questions or ask if you could meet with them just to say, I have a couple parents. I just want to know from the admin perspective, how would you go about handling a challenging case? Or like, do you have any scripts or do you have any tips? Or again, asking them and inviting them into your classroom, even though they're scary and intimidating, just to show that you want them around, even if they're not the kind of person that you want around. Come in when we're doing this activity or this craft, or come in when we're reading this book, just to get some support. I think speak up and, advocate for the right things. I had a classroom one year that was extremely challenging. The students were extremely challenging. I won't get into it too much, but then the admin was coming down on me for not having a smooth classroom. And so it was scary for me to ask them to come into my room because it was a hot mess and also they were scary. And I think I had to kind of get over that, and I would invite them in anyway and say, instead of, I don't basically come in and you could give me tips, just humbling myself to a really low point to hopefully show that I needed their help, and then maybe they'd be willing to come in and help me. Okay, that was a ton of information. I feel like I talked your ear off, but I'm really excited about this topic, and I really wanted to make sure that I had as much information as possible in this video. I hope that there was something in it that maybe resonated with you or was helpful for you. And if you have other tips or things or just experiences that you've had, good or bad, and you feel comfortable sharing them in the comments, please feel free, because other people, they watch videos, they check the comments, and it might help or validate some other people. Also, I want to remind you, please go take a look at the blog post and take a look at the rest of Heather's blog, because it is really great and has so much content that could support you and help you throughout your first couple years of teaching. I think it's a wealth of knowledge. So I am going to stop blabbering now, but I hope that wherever you're at, in whatever administrative structure you have, that you are on your way to feeling supported, or that you do feel supported, or that you feel like you have the tools and the tips to try and conquer some of those fears, and that you can start collaborating with those people again. You guys are the best, and I will see you in the next video.